Patch 1.4 features our second balance changes since the debut of Rising Tides, including a number of card reworks and adjustments. This is just a quick overview of the changes that the latest patch has brought us. Darius has had its health changed from 5 to 6 on his level 2 card, making him more durable and consistent. It's hoped that this change will make Noxus aggro decks more attractive and make Darius a solid option for closing the game. This is an interesting change and could make Noxus Overwhelms a thing now that he's not so squishy, along with the Basilisk Rider also being buffed. As a knock-on effect, Vengeance might also start seeing more play as a result. Anivia has had her cost reduced from 7 to 6. When she was compared to other champions of the same cost like Nautilus, Anivia's power and ability rarely fit into an actual strategy or justified this cost, making her a very general champion. It's hoped that this change will make her more efficient and usable. I feel this change won't have too much impact and she'll need a more dramatic overhaul to change the meta. Braum has had his cost increased from 3 to 4, but also had his attack power buffed from 0 to 1. He's also gained a new ability, which is, the first time his card survives damage, summon one mighty Poro. This change has been done to keep Braum in line with the old design that people loved, but make him fit more into general trade or deck styles. I feel these changes will make him see more usage, but not dramatically alter the meta again. Poro decks will become even more common, along with other Poro buffs in this patch. Jinx's Super Mega Death Rocket has had its cost decrease from 2 to 1. Riot feel this change will slightly increase Jinx's consistency, especially in expeditions. Personally, I don't feel this will impact Jinx's playability at all. Genevieve Elmheart has had her attack increased from 4 to 5 and health increased from 4 to 5. Genevieve simply did not see much play at all, and for 6 mana you could get a lot better cards. I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't even know this card existed. Riot has buffed her to make her a more interesting option in general. I think this will have an impact in the meta by making Bilgewater Scout decks more viable, so this will be interesting to see. Unyielding Spirit has been changed from a burst spell to a fast spell. Was anyone really surprised to see this here? Riot finally agreed that this spell was having too much of a negative impact on the game and decided to nerf it. Don't get me wrong, this is still a powerful card, but at least it allows some counterplay now. Basilisk Rider has had its health increased from 2 to 3. This is another card that you may have rarely seen. Riot felt that it did not fit very well with the Noxus Allegiant decks. Additionally, aggro Noxus decks rarely used cards with a higher cost around 4 or more. The hope is that this change will allow some other mid-cost tools in Noxus aggro decks, such as this. Along with the Darius buff, Noxus Overwhelms could make a return. Captain Farron is having his card text altered to, when this card is summoned, create 3 decimates in your hand. This card is an endgame finisher, but getting rid of your whole hand like before for decimates in some cases was a very negative thing. This effect has been changed to allow more freedom when using this card and just make it a little bit less clunky. I feel this will impact the meta, and you will see a little bit more of him in slow decks now that want that very kind of strong finish. Aurora Porealis has had its cost reduced from 7 to 6. Riot felt that this card was too high a cost for no immediate effect, and has its cost reduced to make it more mana available for additional actions in the current turn you're using it. I feel this card needs to summon Poros to really make a huge dent in the meta, so even though Poros will see more usage, I don't think Poros will be a competitive, say tier 1 or even tier 2 deck yet. Poro Herder has had his cost halved to 2, attack reduced to 3, and health reduced to 3. He now has the effect that when this card is summoned, draw a Poro if you have a Poro ally. This change is in line with the adjustment to Braum, allowing Poro decks to curve a little better. Like Aurora, it will make Poro decks see a little bit more usage, maybe people are curious to try it, but I don't think it will significantly impact the meta. She Who Wonders is having the keyword regeneration added. This is one of the most powerful cards in beta with its amazing obliterate effect. Riot have added regeneration to help close the game. I think this card will make people want to revisit this card and build decks around it. They Who Endure has had its cost increased from 6 to 7. This isn't a surprise, as this was the flagship card in the Endure Spiders deck that has been tier 1 in the meta. This increase in cost will give opponents another turn to try and counter this card, and make it harder to get this out as quickly. It will still dominate the meta, but it will make it just that a little bit more counterable, just so the kind of win rate is just dropped marginally. Ren Shadowblade has had its cost reduced to 4, attack reduced to 3, and health reduced to 3. It also has the new effect that it creates a Shadow Fiend card in the hand when it strikes. It's also gained quick attack. It was hard to create a deck around this card due to its high cost, so it's been redesigned to give Ephemeral more options. I think they've reworked an unplayable deck, and this card in particular, into a viable card. A good change in my opinion. Jae Medarda has had its cost reduced to 6, health reduced to 4, attack reduced to 4, and loss elusive, but gained new effect that when this card is targeted and survives, draw 1 card. The cost of this card often makes this a bit clunky to use. I'm unsure whether this was a buff or a nerf. This could be played, say, with Vault Breaker for some fun combos, but I don't think this will impact the meta or make him too much more competitive. If anything, nerfing him. Losing elusive was a big deal for me. Escaped Abomination has had its health reduced from 4 to 3. It's really hard to deal with this card early in the game, and Shadow Isle decks were really kind of pushing the kind of aggro openings. So nerf of this card will allow it to be a bit easier to counter Curse Keeper and Escaped Abomination. This card is a little bit more fair now to play against, but I think it will still see a fair amount of usage, but just simply be less overpowered than it was. The Harrowing has had its cost reduced from 10 to 9. Wyatt wanted this to be the Shadow Isle's end card, but it wasn't used as much as they'd hoped. The cost reduction will make it slightly easier to use. This is a tiny buff, as later in the game huge mana costs are not a big deal, as you'll not be able to do too much else on the turn that you activate it anyway. Alternatively, this could be a big change, as this allows you to hold up a deny after casting Harrowing, to basically kind of really prevent those kind of backup options, and could push Shadow Isles and Iona Hecarim into tier 2. Dreg Dredgers has had its power reduced from 2 to 1. Deep decks are meant to have a really weak early game, and this card was just a little bit too valuable for 1 mana and traded too well. This is a deserved nerf, but won't impact Deep's playability at all, and this will still be a very solid tier 2 deck at least. Mind Meld has had its cost reduced from 8 to 7. Simply put, this card costs too much for its effect compared to other spells around 8 mana. In opinion, this card still costs too much, and it will not see any playability at all. It's a better card than people give it credit for though, so I would try it out, but it won't be that competitive. Petty Officer has had its health increased from 1 to 2. Wyatt wanted to boost keg decks whilst proving more options for Bilgewater decks in general. This buff should fit this criteria nicely. I feel this might be good enough to see in some tempo deck lists outside of kegs, but I don't think there's a place for it, say, in the Misfortune Sejuani decks that have been popping up. My early prediction for the tier 1 decks this meta will be Endure Spiders, Elusives, Sejuani Misfortune, Scouts, and Heimervi. I'd love to know your thoughts on what you think will be the dominating decks this meta. And that's it, folks. Thank you very much for listening. To finish off, I'd love to also hear what you think has been the biggest buff and the biggest nerf this patch. Thank you very much for listening, guys, and see you next time.